All right, good morning. This is Mass Communication 210. Um, let's see here. What day is today? It is
It's the
November 20.
29th.
Yeah, 2023. I'm here with Paul Kroner, principal of Kroner's, let's hear of Kroner Design and currently CEO of Kroner
Yeah.
Studio. Actually is that he's been in web design, market branding, identity design, that sort of thing. And he started Kroner Design in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1998. And when did you move to Cincinnati?
I moved to Cincinnati in 2017.
2017. So, and you've done a lot of work for a lot of clients like ZEO and Cincinnati Bell. And who else have you worked
And
with?
I've done work with Hewlett Packard, and
Sure.
which you may have heard of, and
Maybe.
uh, you know, lots of technology companies and medical concerns and
Mhm.
uh, academic institutions up in New England, like Mass College of
Right.
Art and Mass College of Pharmacy, Mass General, New
Mhm.
England Conservatory of Music, etc.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of experience up in New England before I moved to Cincinnati.
But the thing is, you got started in your training in Cincinnati. You got your background in graphic design at
Yeah,
Cincinnati, right?
correct. I graduated with a degree in graphic design way back before there were computers, so everything was analog.
That might be something
So
interesting to talk about.
I think it's I think it's a really interesting thing. I'm happy to have had the experience using some of the older technologies, and I'm always curious to see how they influence my thinking with new technology.
Sure, sure. So, how would you like to start? You want to go over to the website and go down through some of your stuff, and then maybe we kind of talk about experience and different things, and have the students engage and all that sort of thing.
Sure, I can. What I'll do is I'm going to share my screen, which
Okay.
is
Oh, one thing is we met because I'll just say we met because of the fact that let's see here. I'm involved with a group called techspressionism.com, which is kind of like technology and expressionist art and that sort of. You came in and you were interested in artificial intelligence art and said, Patrick, you're doing some research in this and you want to come down and give a little talk and be part of my show. Yes, but is it art? And there you go. And that started a lot.
yeah. I'd like to talk about that a little bit at length as we go on,
Okay.
because obviously that's our connection. But I also am curious, if there's an opportunity to hear from the students about
Yes.
how they are thinking about AI, how they're implementing AI, how you're teaching AI, uh, both on a visual and content, and how it's being filtered into your work, because I think it's a really fascinating time, and I can't imagine being in school with the advent of this coming along, because it would just blow my mind,
It's
all
a
the
ride.
opportunities. So
Mhm.
um, I'm going to let's see here. For some reason, I'm just going to go to pulse because I can't see. Anyway, what I'm going to just start is talk a little bit about my history as in the graphic design world. I was trained as a graphic designer, like I said, and got hired by a company right out of school, and did a lot of work for the universities doing their recruitment packages. If your students remember, when they were about junior in high school, they started to get uh, probably now emails, but back before that happened, you'd get a series of publications from different colleges and universities based on your PSAT and SAT scores, and they'd start showing you interest. Anyway, I worked with a company that did all that recruitment, marketing, communications, which is a whole process of sort of a trickle down way of creating interest, and then feeding, if the interest is shown, giving them more information. If interest is shown, giving them more information. So sort of a way of building up to engaging with a potential student and their parents. So I did a lot of work for that, and for the academic world, and also a lot of work with the healthcare industry. I was up in New England, so there's a lot of schools affiliated with Harvard and really good medical institutions, and I did a lot of branding work for them. I worked on the brands for Mass General Hospital, Mass Eye and Ear, Mount Auburn Hospital, etc. So my work ranged from doing corporate identity work, a lot of logos. I'm just going to sort of run through some of these logos that I've done. This is the one I've done recently for Studio Kroner, my new business. One for an Irish school here in Cincinnati, a law firm in New England, a woodworking company in New England, a medical concern. Zio, I can go through and show you some of the product development we did with them. They were sort of the advent of sleep technology. This is going back a few years, but they were sort of in the forefront of really diving into sleep patterns and trying to record them and help provide you with a better night's sleep. Things that your iWatch now does, just out of once you put it on your wrist. But that was new technology back then. This is a company that was a foundation all about children's books, so really playful illustration. The kid with a book kite, restaurants. This is a financial company that deals in energy portfolios, and a company that was this was a early on photo digital album company. I even forget which this one was. I did so many logos, I can't remember. This is a logo for a hospital for their family center. And this was very early .com world, which is if your students ever heard of a thing called a CD, which followed albums and tapes. This is a company that had developed a website where you could swap your CDs with other people, and did a lot of work for them. This was a company that would buy your old photo equipment, and a marketing company, another technology company. Just going to go through this pretty quickly. So that's sort of some of the range of corporate identity and branding and logos that I did. Just to talk a little bit about, for me, a logo. You think about the Nike logo, for example, and everybody knows the Nike logo, which I think they paid the designer $750 for that logo way back when.
But they came back.
And I think they did come back and give him some compensation for that. But it's interesting because the logo, which I still love logos because you have to boil down the essence of a company into something that works in black and white, just this binary little chunk that begins to really set off and establish, when you see that mark, it feels, when you see Nike, you that logo, you have this whole impression of what that company stands for, what their attitude is, what their product is, and everything like that. And that mark begins to stand for that. So I will always think of this as being like the DNA of a company. And then up on that framework, you put marketing communications, you start to build your brand around that with advertising and marketing and communications. And so I still have always loved the work of creating a brand and really trying to understand the essence of a company, and distill it down into a simple mark and then building from there. I'm just going to walk through a couple things, and then I want to jump over to what I'm doing with Studio Kroner.
Just 1 second. One thing we wind up studying is I basically take them into semiotics and that sort of thing. And then we go over into brand culture and basically, look at, how branding as a signifier of an identity and that sort of thing basically it has in the last 100 years turned commodity into experience. And what does that experience stand for? As far as creating an experience of a brand. And that's, as you were saying, core DNA. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think back, I wrote a piece a number of years ago on sort of my initial uh, awareness of branding was when I was a kid reading a book on brands cowboys would put on their cattle.
Yeah.
And and I was really intrigued by all those, like the double R brand or this brand or that brand, and they'd burn it into the hide of the ass of a cow. And and that thing, if you stole that and that had the mark on it, you could be hung or
Yeah.
shot for kill. So the importance of branding going back that far. And it's really weird. I held on to that for a really long time. And then, when I got into college, I was like, oh, I'm sort of doing the same things these guys were doing for companies.
Well, something
It's just it's a whole different ball game now, but obviously, but
something that's
it's
kind of interesting is I have a philosophy is that, when we wear a brand, it's kind of the same thing onto the individual wearing it. In other words, they become marked by that lifestyle and that sort of thing. But the thing is, it's removable.
yeah, true.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
it's interesting. You wind up with. I'm not sure whether I'm going the idea that basically we're burning a stamp into somebody's rump, but I'm just not exactly where I'm going. But what I'm talking about is just this is something that basically identifies us with sort of a tribe, sort of experienced tribe, and
Sure.
yeah, and then so that's the tribe you're with today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting experience, because if you look at every brand as every company as a tribe, and you're trying to get people to join the tribe and be loyal to them. So in doing that, and through all the things you're teaching and all the uh, principles of design and good content development, is trying to deliver on the promise of what that mark stands for. The mark then represents the attitude of the company, and so you have to like really build that in over time. And I always sort of think, it's sort of at a certain point, the logo is what the logo is. It's what you build around the logo that matters. And how you deliver on the promise, the story you're telling people, whether it's a pair of gym shoes or in some cases what I'm doing, it's legal practice or technology. We're delivering on that promise. And there's here's define. I'll get back to that. I have to think about that. Are you familiar with the finding the why in a brand,
Yeah.
as opposed to the how? There's a guy who did a great video on that. I'm spacing on it, but
Mm.
really thinking about in communicating the essence of why your product or your service or your artwork or why any of it matters, rather than how you did it and how you made it.
It,
That should be the last thing you tell them.
is it an Ogilvy thing?
No, I'm going to have to find that and send it to you,
Okay.
because I think it's a really great thing to share with your class.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's really a great little distillation of branding as sort of storytelling more than visualization, but
Definitely.
just a way to really think about what you're doing. And it's an interesting thing, because oftentimes you think about, I mean, these things you can start to apply to yourself a little bit. Like, what do you stand for? Why do you stand for it? What are your values? And how do you live your values? And what does that say about you? So, but I digress.
One real quick thing. Do you find it different when you're dealing with a tangible or an intangible, tangible or intangible? As far as like, say, for example, like a legal service or hospital versus something that, is more maybe, more of a tangible brand, that they're dealing with more tangible things rather than, say like services and such.
Uh, yeah, well, I think so, because it's obviously you can, pulling out and trying to make a service visible
Mhm.
is, as opposed to a product, is a trickier thing. I mean, I'm just looking at two different things up here. One, this is a law firm, and this is a ribs festival.
And why don't we
you
pop those?
know, and so it's really some of the more retail stuff can be a little bit more fun,
Mhm.
realistically, because you have a little bit more. Uh, you have some visual stuff to work with that can be a little bit sexier or more interesting, or just more fun. You know. Uh, and it's tricky to try to do the service oriented ones. So, Patrick, how would you like for me to go here? I want to be sensitive to your time and everything
Right.
like
How
that.
about if we take a look at a couple things you were going to pop up, and then we go over to Studio Kroner?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to, you know, like I said, I've had a wide range of things that this is a company. It was a law firm. Um, they came to me and they were trying to redo their logo that was really old and stodgy and looked like somebody had done on Microsoft Word. They were really wanting to present a younger company and appeal to younger people. So I tried to distill that mark. This company is called Kasner Edwards into this ligature that felt like it was a young, springy thing.
Mhm.
Like it could just jump right off the page and had a lot of energy to it. And the colors suggested something that was blooming and new and sort of different than a stodgy blue and red law firm.
Mhm.
So, it's still a law firm, but really trying to take and create something that just distinguished them in the marketplace for
Mhm.
in their marketplace. And then you get something like this. This is an annual ribs festival up in Cambridge, Massachusetts that I used to do, which was just a
Great.
blast. This one was really fun. This was, if at a certain level you could become a meat eater,
Oh
you
yeah.
got extra tickets, you got extra taste. But this little guy here has this cow tail hanging out of his mouth because he's eating the whole cow. So got that kind of stuff. It
Yeah.
presents a whole level of a different way to think about things. You know, Other things in Cincinnati Bell is just trying to, just a lot of packaging and in-store graphics for
Right.
them. Uh, Trying to do some things with using paper in a different way,
Sure.
etc. So it's sort of all marketing, communications, design, uh, and just trying to find a way to always own it and be consistent with it. One of the things that I'm really just, something that I would like to, in trying to teach people and understanding how design works and how marketing communication is this whole idea of empathetic design,
Yes.
which is really what does the person looking at what you're giving them need to get from that. So you really have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You almost have to remove yourself from the equation, at a certain level and go, what do they need to know? And what order do they need to know it? And who are they? I know when I was a young designer, I would really, you know, uh, make fun of people who needed to see things in bigger than 8-point type.
Right.
Um, because it was supposed to be small because that's the way it should be. And then all of a sudden you realize your audience is a bunch of geriatric patients and they can't read that. So um, you failed. You
Yeah.
have to make that larger in order to talk to those clients. It seems rather obvious, but I think at times sometimes you have to get really past where your head is and get into somebody else's shoes and really think about how they need to receive any information so that they can use the product or the service that you're communicating for.
Definitely.
And what all your students are doing is they're going to go work for somebody who are going to be providing a service to help other people do something, whether that's selling something or providing a service. So that thought of really being very conscious at all times about what that hierarchy of information is that needs to be delivered and thought about, and using design to really help lead that person through that path of information.
Exactly.
So, you know, which is, you know, so I've really started to, there's this, hold on a second.
How do you do that in the gallery, Paul?
Well, you know, it's interesting because you know, so I moved to Cincinnati and I became, later in life, I really started chasing my dream as a fine artist.
Of course.
And I got this opportunity. You know, I was looking for bigger studio space because I had outgrown my studio space here in the city, and was given this opportunity to take over this gallery. If you'd like, I could take you a walk through the gallery and show you around. But when I got the gallery, I realized that I didn't want to create I only need so much room to work in, but now I have all this showroom space, and I didn't want to just create a museum to my own work. Not yet, anyway. But so I show a whole variety of artists and on a rotating basis. And when I'm showing artists or putting on a show, each one of those for me becomes a branding exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Each artist has a specific brand. They're a painter, they're a sculptor, they're an encaustic artist, they're abstract, they're figurative, you know, whatever it is. Everybody has an identity. And so my job is, and the show might have a theme to it. So how do I go through every show and create an identity and a brand for that show that I can use over all my communications, my emails, my social media, my website, my print materials, posters that go into the gallery. All those, it's a very limited number of touch points. It's also then part of artist talks and openings and closing, you know, because I look at openings and closings as not only an opportunity for a brand touch point for the gallery. You know, I want to create something that feels special for people, and people come into the gallery, have started to have an expectation about what a show at Studio Kroner means, who the people are that are coming here, what the wine and beer our selections are. All those things now become something I'm thinking about in terms of like, how does this reflect back on the brand I'm trying to build in this community? So the creating this business, Studio Kroner, has been a real exercise in branding in a way that has surprised me. I'm just going to go down to the show we did together.
Empathetic experience design.
Yes. Why is this not?
Let's see here.
What's going on? Why is?
You know what? I think it's you think it's just a little bit of delay.
Yeah. God, it's slow. That's weird.
These things happen.
It's saying that, here we go.
There it is. It's just a little slow.
Anyway, so just again to sort of backtrack a little bit and how Patrick and I got together. And this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I'm just going to tell this story because about a year ago, I had somebody come into the gallery to show me their portfolio. It was this guy here down in that little video, a guy named Alan Brown. And he showed me his work. He was a digital photographer. And then at the end, he popped out a portfolio of images he created in AI, which is the first time I'd ever heard of that. This was about a year and a half ago. And I remembered being somewhat disgusted by it because it was like, oh my God, you know, I've spent my whole career working in the digital medium. Now I'm working in this analog medium of paint and clay and trying to be an artist. And this guy shows up with these, you know, really interesting images that he created out of AI. And I sort of shoot him on his way and said, you know, get out of my studio. And and then realized that I had sort of had the same um, reluctancy to a number of technologies in my own past. I uh, sort of resisted starting work on the computer. I resisted, this and that over time because I liked where I was. And this was sort of like, it occurred to me that I really wanted to get ahead of the curve, which is why I joined that webinar that Tech Expressions did back just about this time last year, Patrick.
Yeah.
And just to sort of educate myself on this new technology so that I could start to understand what it might mean for me, whether I want to use it or not use it, or how I would use it or how I wouldn't use it. And really said, then I want to use the forum that this gallery presents me to put on a show to educate people basically in the community. And so that's what we did. We put on this whole show. And to me, it's a whole question of, is this technology art? And if so, how do we evaluate that and think about it? So just a little background. I put on the show, and we had 5 different people, including Patrick, who all presented their work. We hung everything in the gallery, and put on had artist talks and got a lot of press. I just go through this as some of the
By the way,
overnight photos.
one thing I think is really good as far as your web design is how you're structuring the story. In other words, putting putting the narrative, showing the bit from Cincinnati TV, and then showing the press, and having the images of the work and that sort of thing. I think this is one thing that,
Well, thanks.
this is one thing as you as a gallery owner that I hardly ever find anybody creating information design as far as branding and telling the story of a gallery as well as you do. Actually, this is one thing I was very impressed by.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This goes back, I think about how I do the work for a gallery and how I roll out any particular show I'm doing goes really back to my early days of college admissions, where you put out a piece that says, hey, save the date. And then there's another piece that, then there's a news put together PR release that I post. So I'm really trying to just throw out little nibbles for people to go, oh, that's interesting. And just start to build up awareness about any event. And then the closer you get, just sort of ramp that up, and really think about how, everybody's get inundated with information. And, so you have to be really, I think, choiceful about how you present it, when you present it, and build it up so that you're, keeping pace with whoever's digesting the information you're providing them. And again, I try to do the same thing with the site, and then also I'm just going to show these are a couple of one of the things I've really gotten fond of doing.
These are great.
Are doing these little videos for any given thing. Trying to animate.
Yep.
And
this is great. I love this one. I think it really represents your look really well, and how do you put together the branding and tell the story and that sort of thing. I think really, really concise, really lovely.
Well, thank you. I'm going to show a couple pieces because I've just sort of realized this one thing as So I'm trying to through all my outreach for every given show, trying to pick up, a sensibility of not only typography and color and logo and, sort of those basic brand elements, but also some attitude about what the store, what my business is. This is the first time I've ever had a storefront, and I realize I use a lot of my window and as a metaphor. I'm gonna show something else here. I'm gonna pull down. And I've realized that it's sort of like I have this place now that I have a window out into the world, and I'm trying to use this um, this studio as a place to offer people who come into it a different view into the world through art, and really trying to, my mission has been to try to use art as a conduit for conversations about a lot of bigger topics.
Yes.
And so in addition to Yes, But Is It Art, which was all about AI, I did a show that was called All Else Pales, which is all about the environment. It featured an artist from Bloomington, Indiana, who did these really beautiful paintings about the environment. We had a performance created for it. We had speakers, a scientist from Indiana University, the climate or the sustainability director of the city of Cincinnati. We did a night of poetry where we had over 90 poems written about the environment and created a publication. All of these things are branded. All of these things are experiences. All of these things map to what I'm trying to do with the brand of this organization, is a thoughtful place, a place for quality, and in
Are you there? Oh, I think your sound went out. One second. Yeah, I think you dropped carrier. Can you try to log back in? Okay, hang on. Don't get anxious. Yeah, I think you lost I'm still on. Okay. Welcome back.
If you want to,
Can we open things up for a little bit? And
yep,
we have 10 minutes left. Yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, guess what? Let's see here. All right. I'm just making sure. Let's see here. You have your hand up, sir? You have your hand up or? No. Okay. Okay.
Hi, Paul. I have a question.
Hi.
So you started as an analog artist, you said, and then
Designer.
Analog designer, and with all of the different changing technologies and now the introduction of AI, can you talk a little bit about such a rapidly changing field?
Yeah, with all these rapid changes, how is this affecting you?
It's interesting. It's like I still, as you can see just by the work I'm doing with my website and everything like that, and the marketing I do for the gallery, I'm a very involved graphic designer and marketing communication person. I'm using, I'm very adept at all the Creative Suite products. I incorporate ChatGPT almost on a daily basis now. I find it's a wonderful tool.
How do you do
I've
that?
Please.
How do you do that? How do you
Oh,
incorporate?
I use it just, like I was putting a product up in my store this morning, and it was like, this copy is, is really dull. It's not inspired copy. And I just like, help me, just like I just go, please write for impact. And I'll put my copy in, and it gives me copy back. And then I go back and forth and tweak that. And so I use it all the time. Or, if I'm trying to figure out how to, like write a proposal for a grant, I'll put my copy in and have go back and forth and help me refine it into something that feels um, like it's just communicating better. So I'm using it really just to find ways to make sure I'm communicating clearer,
Mm-hmm.
uh, more succinctly, and more engaged. So I'm using the technology that way, and I'm not sure if I'm answering the question. I think it has, with the AI, and especially on the visual end, um, as I've told Patrick when he was here for the show, I am more curious than I am interested. I love working in paint, and I love working in clay and wax, and I like getting my hands dirty. I like building things in the analog world, and um, and I think I'll always do that. But I've used Mid Journey a little bit because I'm working on a new sculpture, and it's a part of a series of sculptures, and I scanned old ones in and put it in and asked them to describe it. And they came back to me with a whole host of references to other artists I had never seen. And all of a sudden it opened up my eye to different people's works that I had not seen. I would have never found those people. And it also just like gave me some insight to go, oh, I'm thinking about this shape as a rectangle. Maybe it needs to be round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, it's not doing anything that looking through books of art wouldn't sort of give me over time. But it's when it's becomes, I find it's really interesting to self-reference yourself to find out where you might take yourself. I think that's a really interesting idea, to a way to use the technology. It's like, this is how I've been thinking. How might I think if I got out of my way a little bit? And can you help me get out of my way? And I think there's a way for that technology to augment that for you without actually creating it. They're just going to maybe have you think about something differently. I mean, so I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I am I'm engaged with technology all the time. I'm not a Luddite at all. For
But
being,
you don't let it run the show.
but I don't let it run the show.
No.
I mean, it's like at the end of the day, you have to always be looking or reading and going, does this communicate to the people I'm trying to communicate to?
Drive your own bus.
And and just really go, and is it in the sequence of order, visually or verbally, that people need to hear to be able to go, I'm interested in knowing more. I'm interested in knowing more. I'm interested, what are the breadcrumbs you're using to lead people down a path to a story or message or an offer you're trying to give them?
Sure. One more. Anybody else? Anybody else got a question? Jack.
What's like the most your work? So like, what's the most proud of work you created?
What work are you most proud of?
They're all my babies. That's a tough question to ask or be able to answer.
I think it's the gallery.
That right now it feels like that. I have really loved what I've started to create here. It has taken a lot of time. It's taken a lot of time from me actually making work. But what I realized this year is that this space is performance art. And in a way, I've become a performing artist by
Mhm.
putting on all these different shows and events surrounding the show and thinking about them. So it is a place I'm really proud of. I have a lot of work. I've got that, I'm very tickled with. I'm working on a couple new sculptures that give me great joy. And, uh, and, and so that's really fun. I don't know, Patrick, if you want me to do a walkthrough here at all before we get off or not.
Yeah, we
Um,
could probably do it real quick. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes and
Okay.
And,
Yeah, I'm just,
and you know what? Your discussions are spreading.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's people look forward to the events and
Yeah.
show up
The
for
thing
them.
is,
And
it's we're
you know,
getting this out here.
yeah. So it's been really, for me, I guess, to answer your question, is the Jake or Jack is, I'm really proud that I've been able to leverage my all the thinking I've done as a designer and now as an artist into creating stories that I get to tell to other people in some form or fashion, and and create these immersive environments for them. That's pretty cool.
You-
But
do,
just
do y'all have time to go take a look in the gallery for a second and then that sort of thing? Is that okay? Okay, can we just do that real quick?
yeah, I think it's just gotta. Is there a way to flip the camera around, or I just got to flip the computer around? I
Let's
think it
flip the
just
computer around.
yeah. Anyway, this is my studio. I'll just do a quick little. It's a little, as you can say, it's a very much of a working studio. So there's sculptures in place. There's ideas for painting that are underway. Up there are just all sorts of little maquettes for sculptures I've worked on. This is a new sculpture I'm working on. I'm pretty excited about.
Wow, cool.
It's called Swing
Great.
Man. This is created in wax. This is the big poster that I did for the Yes But
Mhm.
It's an Art show.
Yep.
A little series of paintings I'm working on. So that's my giant mess of a studio.
Yeah.
And then we're getting geared up. We're doing a holiday show this weekend in the gallery. So
That's a really
right
lovely
now,
wall.
right now, all the work on the wall these are all paintings of mine and sculptures of mine. And then because I'm not currently doing a show, but you see we get just great bursts of sunlight coming into here, and that's my window into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wonderful.
so that's the world we get to live in.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us, Paul. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thanks to everybody. Good luck with your schooling and everything else, and have a happy holiday.
All right. I'll catch up with you a little bit later. Thanks so much.
Okay.